What's your worst bullying experience? When I was 13, my class was in line waiting for our teacher to get there when a kid I had barely ever spoken to came up to me. He pointed at one of my classmates and asked, "Is that your boyfriend?" obviously joking. All the kids giggled as I stuttered and said no. He then came closer and asked me if I could speak. I again stuttered because like what the fuck is even happening? Finally, he pins me to the wall in front of everyone, and asks, "Are you autistic?" and asks me if I'm an R slur. At that point everyone is laughing and none of my friends stepped in. I was tearing up and stuttering because this 5 feet 10 inches boy was towering over me and not allowing me to move. Over the course of that school year he developed a crush on me and would touch my hands, grab my waist, offer to take me to class, etc. It was all so terrible. Does anyone have similar experiences? In middle school, 7th to 8th grade, some girl I had never spoken to who was casual friends with my best friend, not really friends, he didn't like her, but she kept pushing herself in, started to come up to me and just say she hated me and call me names or yell at me. Then, when I told the principal, she only got a slap on the wrist and told to not do that, so she enlisted her friends to help her. They threw food at me, cussed at me and called me a bitch, said they hated me, told me to hurt myself or kill myself, threatened to beat me up, and every time I brought it up to the principal they would get told, "That's not nice," and no other consequences for literally telling me to end my life, and then I would get a spiel on how, you can't let them get to you, and, they may have a bad home life or are insecure. Yeah, I had a bad home life too and they were making my school life even worse, but I'm sure they weren't told any of that shit. Somehow I was the one who had to forgive and forget, I was the one who had to stop letting it get to me. They didn't have to stop anything. They continued until COVID sent us all home and I haven't seen any of them since. I live in a completely different state now because of how traumatized I was from those years. When I was in the 5th grade, I moved over Christmas break. My homeroom was in math, and the girls at my table seemed nice. At one point I think I got behind some girl's boyfriend, face with tears of joy, in line out of the computer lab, had no clue who this guy was, and she hated me apparently. Let's call her Victoria. I made friends with this other girl, let's call her Chelsea, and the day before a big test we exchanged friendship jewelry. I come back the next morning, take my test, and doodle for the rest of the class. At some point my teacher aggressively pulls me aside and berates me, but the lecture escapes me because I was too confused to comprehend the words. Apparently, Victoria was upset with me and every other girl in my class helped write a death threat to Chelsea, and had someone at her table pass it to her desk while she was in the bathroom. It had a picture of a stick figure holding a gun. "I'm going to bring a G***N tomorrow and shoot you, bitch." My name was signed, but incorrectly, because I have the Hawaiian spelling of a more popular American name and I guess they weren't smart enough to look at any of my work to figure it out. When Chelsea came back and found it, every girl in my class came up with her to tell the teacher that they'd all seen me put it in her desk. I got in so much fucking trouble. I was so confused why I was the one facing the music when it was so obvious it wasn't me. I had to write a full-page essay apology and Chelsea moved houses and districts thinking I genuinely wanted to hurt her. When I got home, I had to clean the entire house and nobody would humor my explanation. The next morning, I showed the counselor my school notebooks with my name printed clearly and the handwriting obviously not matching. My parents and counselor agreed that it wasn't me. No apology from anyone, though. Not from my parents, school, teachers, or peers. It actually continued with Victoria realizing she could literally say anything and my life would immediately be hell, since the teachers didn't care if it was actually my fault or not. Once I went to the bathroom while she was refilling her water bottle, and she told our science teacher I followed her into a stall and threatened to murder her. I kept getting in trouble for this shit and bullied by my teachers. At one point, Victoria even messaged me on Google Hangouts after tracking down my email address just to call me ugly. Omfu. Once I made the mistake of leaving one of my journals inside my desk, clearly labeled, clearly private, and my teacher went through my things while I was home and read through it. And got angry at me the next day because the word damn was in it once. A private diary. People are fucking insane. Who gangs up on a kid like that? In 3rd grade, I still didn't know how to tie my shoes. I'd often ask the teacher for help. This one day, the teacher wasn't around, so one of my classmates offered to do it. He tied my shoelaces together on both feet so I'd fall if I tried to walk. A few days later, that kid put handfuls of dirt into the hood of my jacket when I wasn't looking. The dirt fell over my head. When I told my teacher, I was yelled at for tattling. In 6th grade, that same kid lured me into the bathroom and slammed me against a urinal. He said he would knock me out if I didn't give him the money I had brought for the school fair. He never got in trouble because he moved the next week. Later that year, a group of older boys shoved my yearbook out of my hand and it fell into the mud. I stood there kind of stunned, and they pushed me down. I was only wearing shorts and a t-shirt, so I had to ride the bus home covered in mud. My backpack and $50 yearbook were completely unsalvageable. In 8th grade, some kid I thought was my friend started getting in trouble with the law. He'd try to get me to do the dirty work for him so I'd get in trouble instead. When I cut ties with him, he started sending me graphic death threats, both by email and through notes. He targeted my other friends as well. His parents had money and threatened to sue the school whenever they tried to discipline him. In high school, it wasn't as bad. Mostly just deliberate exclusion, stealing shit from me when I wasn't looking, and the odd comment here and there. I didn't pay these types of people any attention, and eventually they just left me alone. College was pretty much the same deal. Very isolating, but at least I didn't fear for my safety every day. I had 2 different kind of worst bullying experiences. In elementary school I was bullied into bullying another student who I actually liked and wanted to be friends with. I think that is a bit fucked to bully other people to bully others for their own enjoyment of watching someone get picked on. Of course I didn't enjoy it, and when I would put up any resistance I became the target of bullying. What can I say other than I was weak as fuck and couldn't stand up to peer pressure? I really feel bad for not being able to stand up for what I knew was right and wrong. As an adult I've grown a stiffer spine to such injustices. Also grew a thick skin to the verbal abuse from people trying to bully me into doing something I don't want to do. The other experience was in sophomore year of high school in the fall. I don't know what, but a freshman and his friend in my year would try and pick on me. Blocking the doorway for me to get to my class. Tripping me as I tried to get into the class. This a school that you had to pass a test to get into, nerd school, so most people were smart and bullying was kind of uncommon. I was on the football team, offensive lineman, and these guys were tall but twigs, basketball players. Hell, I even made the varsity football team that year, special times. But I have no clue why these guys hated me as I never talked to them. Well, one day the one guy in my year shoulder checked me in the hallway between bells. I fucking lost it and shoved/pushed him with all of my might into the lockers and yelled at him, "What is your fucking problem?" Everyone stopped and stared. He didn't respond and I went to my next class. The next day they didn't try and block me getting to my class or try and trip me. I guess he got a taste of what physical violence I was capable of and decided he didn't want to fuck with me after that. I never understood why they would bully me given I was pretty sure I would fuck them up in a fight given my weight and strength advantage. Basketball players are honestly pretty weak even if they have muscles to show. I worked out in the weight room and saw the crap weight they were lifting. I was bullied all through every school year, 6th form, college and even uni, but 2 of the worst specific things that come to mind are when I was in middle school, 12, and uni. The middle school one was when I was at one best friend's house with my other best friend. So I was with these two people and I was so excited cause it was my two best friends and we were all hanging out. I thought they were both good friends but they both bullied me separately but not enough that I ever noticed until years later. Anyway, they were both girly and into doing makeup and convinced me to let them to mine. I was just so happy being not only included but feeling liked. And of course they did the makeup so I looked like a clown, and then laughed loads about it. I've had objectively worse things happen to me, but the fact that I trusted them and thought they cared about me and they just shat all over me. I'm tearing up just writing this. The uni one thing was I made a really close friend and we shared a lot about our mental health and stuff. She spread lots of that around but I stayed friends with her, I don't know why. We were on the same course and I was really struggling with it because my mental health was taking a dive bomb and she'd berate me for it and criticize me a lot. She said other shitty things about me to people I knew, including my friends and flatmates. It got to the point where I was too scared to leave my room because I didn't know what people would be saying about me. Then when I left uni because I was so depressed, she spread a rumor, and when I say rumor I mean she'd literally make sure everyone knew that I'd been kicked out. I hadn't at all, and my tutors had even asked me to just defer cause they wanted me to come back. I even got an email from one tutor saying I'd be missed but she knew I'd do well cause I had a lot of potential and talent. Anyway, I spent the next year in the same city and spent months not leaving my flat cause I was too scared of bumping into her or hearing something or seeing someone from uni. Jesus, there were just so many. Probably the worst individual was Dennis. Yes, he was a menace. He was a neighbor and a year younger than me. In hindsight, he definitely had developmental and behavioral issues. Today he would likely get labeled with ODD and ID. Anyway, he was shorter than me, but as solidly built as possible for an 8-year-old. He was stupidly strong and mean as hell. One day I was playing at a nearby playground and there was no one else around. Massive trigger warning. He came up, demanded to touch my privates and threatened to hit me if I didn't touch his. I went along with it because I was a dumbass kid and was afraid to get beat up. Few days later, I saw him at school trying to pull a little girl behind a building. I knew exactly what was going on. I ran over to him, grabbed his arm and told him to leave her alone. He punched me in the face. I keenly remember blood running out of my nose while a teacher pulled me by the arm to the principal's office, Dennis' arm in her other hand. I got chewed out for fighting. I never told anyone what he did to me. Since then I've been willing to get into scraps pretty quickly. If I saw an imminent threat, I was ready to throw the fuck down. I went from 0 to I will kill you immediately. If I was going to get in trouble anyway, I would make damn sure I didn't just take the abuse.